The Hong Kong chief executive, Carrie Lam, has just announced on local television, as expected, a full withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill. Now, the bill would have allowed suspects to stand trial in mainland China. It is one of 5 demands from pro-democracy protesters who have taken to the streets for 13 weeks now in widespread, sometimes violent protests. Now, the 4 other demands are for the resignation of the chief executive, Carrie Lam. They've asked for that. They've also asked for an independent inquiry into police brutality, for those arrested to be exonerated and released, as well as greater democratic freedoms. Now, Lam also addressed the other demands by protesters. She said that the government would use the existing inquiry as opposed to setting up an independent investigation, and that the release of protesters from detention is not an acceptable demand.
This is something that protesters have been waiting for the past 3 months. And as we've heard from Joshua Wong and other protesters on social media, other citizens here in Hong Kong, is that this is too little too late. Now, I was at the press conference with Carrie Lam yesterday at her offices when she fronted the media after that leaked audio recording obtained by Reuters of her speaking to business people at a private luncheon last week, where she said that if she had a choice, she would quit, that the havoc that she has caused here in Hong Kong through this extradition bill is unforgivable. She did, however, when pushed by the media, say that she has never tendered her resignation to Beijing. She says, "I've never considered resigning to Beijing." We know that Carrie Lam has been under enormous pressure. This is a woman, a 62-year-old woman, a lifetime bureaucrat who has had to answer to not just the people of Hong Kong, but to Beijing. At the end of the day, Beijing is her master. And from what we have been hearing over the past couple of months, she put forward her resignation. Beijing didn't accept it. Beijing also said, we will not cave into those 5 demands. So the question, Christy, other than will this quell the protest, is why has China allowed Carrie Lam to formally withdraw this very controversial extradition bill after saying for the last 3 months that it wouldn't do that? Now, some commentators are saying that the upcoming National Day celebrations on the 1st of October, that is the 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China, that is a very important day in the calendar for China, and they don't want the violence here in Hong Kong, the protests here in Hong Kong, to overshadow those National Day celebrations. So the feeling certainly has been they need to get a handle on the situation here in Hong Kong so that the violence doesn't upstage what happens in China on the 1st of October. But as we've been hearing, protests are likely to continue.
We need to do much more. I'm the parent of 2 young boys, one of whom is autistic. And as a parent, when you have your kids drinking water or using various toys and household items, there's always something in the back of your mind, which is this safe? And I just came from Flint, and while this is a separate issue, it's kind of the same in the sense that the folks in Flint discovered that their water was toxic after the fact and are still recovering. So to me, safe drinking water is a fundamental human right, and that if you're an American, you should not be stressed out about the water that you are drinking and your kids are drinking. And this is, again, the problem with having the almighty dollar running our society, where people look up and say, oh, replacing the pipes is expensive, or, oh, another substance would be more expensive. Are you kidding me? You know what's expensive? Poisoning our kids.
Yes.
Should the U.S. ban fossil fuel exports, as some other candidates are calling for?
Well, I think we should, in fact, depending on what it is they're exporting for, what they're replacing. Everything is incremental. Everything is incremental. For example, you talked earlier about transportation. I've been pushing really hard for mass transit and for rail. We can take millions of vehicles off the road if we had high-speed rail. I've been a champion of that for the last 25 years. We know the corridors where we could do that. It would literally take millions of vehicles off the road. But you have to have a rail system that makes people say, if I get on that rail, I will get there as fast as I would have gotten had I driven. and I can afford to do it relative to the cost of my driving. There's a direct correlation. This is something I spent the bulk of my career on, trying to save Amtrak and a few other little things like transportation. But my point is that there are things that we can do now that can begin to change the arc in a significant way. And as we, in fact, invest in the science and the technology and the changes that are available and will come to fruition, in fact, we can make it significantly better.
Will there be a point, or would you like there to be a point, and if so, when, that everybody drives an electric car or has to drive an electric car?
Well, I think, look, that's going to be based upon whether or not we can make it economically feasible. And it is economically feasible. Because guess what? Everybody knows where the world's going. You're not, just like, you know, we set out the rules for what kind of plant, you know, coal burning plants. No one's going to build another coal burning. We've got to shut the ones down we have. But no one is going to build a new one. Guess what? They're not efficient relative to what else is available to be done. That's why people are going to move, and that's why it's going to create so many new jobs for us. We have to take combustion engine vehicles off the road as rapidly as we can. But that also can create a significant number of jobs and opportunities for people.